All right, everybody. So it's time to look at Tesla technicals again, and boy, oh boy, is it pretty crazy. So the last time I was talking about Tesla technicals, I was talking about us being in this chop zone, and this literally doesn't seem like it was too long ago, and that's because it really wasn't. So we were within this yellow chop box, and this chop box was essentially going from around 178 to 185. So as you guys can see, I'm going to zoom in on that price action right here. So as you guys can see, every single time we cut underneath this, we were going to pretty much get right back within it. And then here we broke above it, got right back in it. We broke below it, got right back in it. But look what happened right here. So on this candle, we got in here, we rejected, and as you guys can see, this is when the selling really, really accelerated. So it was already accelerated back here, but it accelerated yet again. So we're oversold on oversold. So if we're just looking right here, let's just count. So we were right here around 178, basically 180, just a matter of days ago. So 1 day, 2 day, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So within a matter of 9, or we don't really know where today is going to be. So let's just say it's 10 days. Within a matter of 10 days, we literally went from 180 to 124, where we are right now. That's just insane. That is literally about a $55 move to the downside within 10 days. So that begs the question, where is support? Where is resistance? Where do we need to focus? So to actually find support, I need to go back literally 2 years. So look, I'm literally going to drag this chart to the left all the way until we find the next support. So this requires me to go back 2 years. So just to show you how tedious this is, I'm doing this on purpose. There we go. We finally see some price action right around here. So now let me just zoom out a little bit. So this is where it really starts, right around here. So right here, this was about August of 2020. Right here is November of 2020. So let me just explain to you what happened right here. So this move right here, this was because Tesla, they basically announced a stock split. At the same exact time, Apple also announced a stock split. So in the midst of the pandemic, when we were seeing massive stimulus pump, we were seeing all of these companies going public, and we had Apple and Tesla both doing stock splits at the same time. So the market was just going crazy euphoric, and we had this huge bull run every single day. You just buy calls and you're up. You buy calls, you're up. You buy calls and you're up. And right here, all of that euphoria just kind of stopped, and we saw some seasonal selling. We saw the election, so people were kind of worried about the elections. So here you kind of see some of that sell-off happening. And then if you notice right here, this is where we found support. And you can see that this support area is right around 110. But you can also see that this area was also a support. So you can see that we bounced off pretty hard right here. But the very next day, we basically reduced all of that and totally tanked. So this area right here is also the support that we're at. It's right around 122. So it lines up with this move right here. So notice that when we did break out of here, we kind of back tested it for a few days, and then we bounced off it. And then you can see that from this candle right here, we tried to bounce off it again. And you can also see right here, the body of this candle lines up with this support. We also have this support right here. So we were kind of chopping it. So this was like an area where we'd stop for a little bit, chop, and then we make a large move. Stop, chop, large move. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So this 121.88, so basically 122. If we break this support and we do a clear break, it's going to be pretty clear that we can make it all the way down to 110, because there's not a whole lot of support in between this. As you guys can see, there's really nothing in between here except for this large green bar right here and this red bar right there. So price action is pretty much the Wild West between 122 and 110. So like I said, if we break below this 122 area, it could be a very, very quick drop to this 110. And maybe that's when we find some support. Maybe. And if not, it could get much worse. So if I were to draw what I think is going to be like premier shitstorm, let's see, it's probably going to be right around here. And that's about 92 bucks. So yeah, let's just draw this out right here, see what that exactly is. So yeah, it's about like 93.29, 92.58. That's what it is. So it's right around this low 90 area. Let's just call it the low 90s. Because it's not really exact. It's a little bit hard to tell exactly where this is. So it's pretty much the low 90s. So let's go back to price action where we are right now. So let's just zoom out a little bit. So this is what happened. I mean, we had this massive move up, chopped around a little bit, had another massive move up, but this was a lower high compared to this. And since this move right here, we've essentially just been kind of trading almost algorithmic, like where we've been falling in this wedge for a while and we're just bouncing back and forth between this wedge, as you guys can see. But right around here, we saw something interesting. Oops. Technical difficulties. So here we go. This is where we saw something interesting. Right here, we clearly broke out of this falling wedge. So this was a very, very clear bull trap. So bulls, they got excited and whoop, saw this massive run above this falling wedge. But look, we didn't just go right back into this falling wedge. We were riding this resistance trend line. And this resistance trend line happens to be down sloping. So we're literally just hugging this trend line right here. And you can see we hug it, hug it, hug it. We fall back into the falling wedge. So this was just a few days. So we literally fell back into the falling wedge for just a few days. We broke down below it. Now, this is where we're at right now. I mean, it would be a pretty bullish signal, in my opinion, if we got back above this falling wedge and we got back above this candle right here. So to get back above this falling wedge, it's roughly going to be about 140 or so. Just keep in mind that as the days go by, this trend line is going lower. So what happens if we chop around here for a little bit and then we have a massive rally? To me, that would be a pretty bullish thing in the short run. Now, how far could that rally take us? I mean, that's a little bit harder to tell. So here's the case that I want to see. The first case, I want to see Tesla starting to move separately from the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. So, if we're just looking at the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, those two major indices, in my opinion, they're expensive. They're expensive for what's going on right now. They are expensive. So if every single time those big indices, they sell off, Tesla sells off double, that's not a good sign. And if those indices rally, Tesla just rallies the same, not a good sign. I want to see those indices falling while at the same time Tesla is going up. To me, that would signal a decoupling of the two. So I don't want to see those two moving together. That's what I really want to see. I want to see those two not moving together. Now, here's the other thing. So just notice these big sells. So these sells are huge. If we can reverse any one of these candles, I think that would be a big deal. I think the shorts would definitely get squeezed, and maybe we could see a pretty big rally. But where I'm looking at resistance in the short run, I'm looking at resistance right around this 137 level for starters, and then right up here, right around 148.61. So I want to see these two resistances being taken out, and then from there we'll see where we get from there. Because at that point, we will be back above this wedge. So back above this bottom trend line, back above this top trend line. So ideally, where these two trend lines meet up, if we could get above there, that would be great. So, we would have to get above, let's see, what is that? It's right around 140. So if we manage to get back above 140, then we just completely break through the intersection of these two trend lines, which is the falling wedge scenario. So that would be somewhere in the middle of this massive sell candle. So ideally, like I said, I would want us to get above this massive candle right here. So that's 148.61. If we could get back above that, I think things start looking good. But you know, obviously the first sign would be to undo this candle right here. So that would be right around 136.39. Now let's go over to a weekly view. So if we're looking at the weekly view, you know, there is a 200 weekly moving average right at 164.36. So right around 164.36, you know, we had a serious breakdown. So oftentimes when you do see a sharp cut below the 200 weekly, you know, it sometimes takes several weeks, but several weeks later, or maybe even like the following week, you could see a retest of that 200 weekly. So how many weeks has it been since we broke underneath this? So it's been about 2 weeks here. So, you know, sometimes it takes several weeks, but oftentimes I do see a retest of the 200 weekly, especially after it's been broken with this severe force. So definitely do keep in mind of this 200 weekly right here. This could pose as future resistance. So if we do have some massive short squeeze that takes us all the way back up here, that 200 weekly is going to act as resistance in the future, and that's 164.36. Now I know it seems like it's so far away, but keep in mind we've only been underneath this for 2 weeks. It's entirely possible that we could see some of this price action getting reversed. It's also entirely possible that we could continue selling off. So before I leave you guys, I do want to look at a shorter time frame just to see if there's any gaps in the chart. So let's just go ahead and look at the 90-day, 30 minutes, see if there's anything that we could see. Oh boy, let's see. Any gaps? I would say there is a gap, and it's not really a big gap, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. It's this gap right here. So if we're going to fill this gap, it's going to take us all the way back to 178.53. So keep in mind that this gap could get filled, but we're at about 125 right now. So we're very far away from it. Now just think about all the shorts that have been piling on right now. I mean, if you want to buy a put right now, the premiums are insane. So like a 1-day put will literally cost you like $500. So 1 day at the money. So it will literally cost you like $500. So the premiums on the put side are insane. So if we do see a massive squeeze, you know, it's not entirely crazy that we could see a huge move. We've been seeing 8% moves in the last few days. So what would a short squeeze look like when you've been seeing 8% selling in the past few days? So that's something to think of. That's something to think about. Now, one more thing before I leave. I want to take a look at the volumes and just the gains and losses in the last few days between Tesla and the Qs. So technical analysis doesn't always have to just be drawing lines and looking at moving averages. It can also be stuff like this. So the big sell-off really started right around December 1st for Tesla. Now you can see that we opened at 197, and yeah, look where we are right now. 23 days later, we open at 126. So let's just take a look at some of the price action here. So right around December 2nd, you know, not too much happened here. But on December 5th, we fell 6.37%. On December 12th, we fell 6.27%. Very next day, 4%. Next day, 2.58. And then here we see 4.72, negative 8.05%, negative 8.88. These are some big sell-offs. So this area right here that I have highlighted, this is when we know for a fact that Elon sold. So on these 3 days, we know for a fact that he sold. And more recently, he said he's not going to sell for a while now. So he said that the soonest would be 2024. So we're not going to see Elon selling for a while unless he goes back against his word, which he's been known to do. So Definitely something to worry about. But in the short term, it doesn't seem like we have to worry about this. I don't think he's going to turn on his word anytime soon, but maybe before 2024. That's entirely possible. But as of recently, I don't think Elon's been selling. I think this is some other selling going on around here. So I did an average volume, and if I'm just averaging out all the volume thus far in December, it's about 123 million shares. So there are some certain days where we saw some massive, massive volume. So right around the Elon sell areas, this makes sense. We saw 176 million right here, 140 million right there. But, literally yesterday, we saw almost 209 million shares being traded. The day before that, 145 million. The day before that, almost 160 million. And yeah, we've been getting right above the average, basically the last 5 days. So the last 5 days, we've been trading well above the average volume for December. And like I said, we've had some massive, massive sell days. If we're just looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 5 days, this is clearly over, gosh, what is that? That's like 20%. That's over 20%. So yeah, in the last 5 days, we sold off over 20%. That's insane. Let's look at the Qs. So the Qs, the average volume for December is 53 million. There's a couple days where, we're above that, but we're not above it by much. Now, look at the losses here in the Qs. I mean, 2.45%. Compare that to 8.88%. This is literally about three to four times as much, the sell-off here in the Qs. So if you don't know, the Qs, they're following the NASDAQ. So it's a tradable ETF that follows the NASDAQ. So yeah, take a look at this, 3.36%. But here, we actually saw a gain of 0.55%. So this is where, I thought, oh, maybe there's a little bit of hope here. We're seeing Tesla decouple from the indices. And nope, the following day we saw a massive sell-off. So, there's a little bit of hopium on this day, but, obviously it turned out to be another trap. So definitely watch out. There are a lot of traps in Tesla, but we're also highly, highly oversold. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and stay safe out there. Also, Merry Christmas. One last thing. Stock market is closed on Monday. So let's see. On Monday the 26th. On Monday the 26th, we are closed. It's a holiday. It's basically celebrating Christmas, which was the day before. So with that, have a great one, you guys.